After yesterday's action, I think there's only one question the fantasy football world needs answered. Is Taylor's boyfriend okay? It's after week 5 and I'm still doing Taylor Swift intros. Maybe I'm the problem. Let's get into it. What is up? Good morning and welcome to Monday's Hangxiety presented by Club Fantasy. I am your host, Ryan Weisse. With me, as always, Joshua Hudson. Josh muted his own mic, so they will not allow me to unmute him. But he's going to jump in here and tell you all hello now that he has fixed his mic situation. Josh, how you doing this morning?
I'm good, man. I'm good. It's a fun day. Eagles with another win. Cowboys got curb stomped. I mean, no issues on my end.
That's exactly what you're hoping to have happen. We wanted the 49ers Cowboys to be a good high scoring game, and it was for one of those two teams.
I mean, I'm sure it covered the over under, so there's that.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, yeah.
Actually, I wonder if it did. I wouldn't have been surprised if the over under in that was 54. I want to go look now. So
go for it. Yeah, no, I just think it's funny to me because every single year, oh, we them boys, Cowboys are back. Blah, blah. And look, I get it. They've had a couple injuries, losing Trayvon Diggs, though we think he's very overrated. He's pretty critical for that defense, and they can mask some of his deficiencies. But, like, they've been a very different team. And more to the point, that offense is awful. And we'll get
you can't convince me. This is a Kellen Moore issue, 100%. That organization, when they chose Mike McCarthy over Kellen Moore, made the largest mistake that is going to set them back 5 years, easily 5 years. Dumbest decision ever made. They should have stuck with Kellen Moore, sent McCarthy's ass packing. You were, I don't want to say breeding, but you were raising Kellen Moore to be your fucking head coach. And then you're just like, no, it's not really working with you and McCarthy. We're gonna fire you. No, bro, that is the wrong decision.
Yeah, that was not the issue.
If you have never tuned into this show before, welcome. We are absolutely glad to have you. We are going to recap yesterday and a little bit of Thursday's action, and we are going to tell you when it is time to panic or chill the fuck out when it comes to some of these fantasy plays. We will be joined later by friend of the show, Mark Fritter. He's going to help us with some dynasty waivers. He's having some technical issues right now, but for now, you got me and Josh, and we are going to talk about what has happened already this week. There is still a game left. Back on Thursday, Justin Fields reminded everybody just who the fuck he was as the Bears beat the Commanders 40-20. Out in London, the Buffalo Bills did not have a good time. I'm not sure if you all saw them bitching about the turf. 25-20, the Jaguars win their second consecutive game in London. The Saints and the Patriots, we're going to have to talk about this game later. 34-0. The New Orleans Saints, a mid team by all accounts, beats the New England Patriots. The Colts
back-to-back weeks have been the worst losses of Bill Belichick's career.
Yeah, they're a problem. The Colts survive another Anthony Richardson injury, 23-16 against the Tennessee Titans. Steelers, explain it, 17-10 over the Ravens after what they did the week before. Whatever, man. Lions did exactly what we expected, 42-24. Falcons snuck by the Texans. These are two very equal teams, 21-19. I wasn't surprised by that score. Wasn't surprised by 31-16. Dolphins over the Giants. Bengals show up, 34-20. Jamar Chase shows up 34-20 over the Arizona Cardinals in Arizona. More on Josh's Eagles beating the Rams 23-14 in just a moment. Jets handle business in Denver 31-21. Chiefs survive a Travis Kelce scare 27-20. 49ers 42. Dallas 10. Not what you want to see if you're a Dallas Cowboys fan. We do have some injuries to discuss. The unnecessary shot of Rumpelmans. You know you're waking up in pain. And Travis Kelce's waking up in pain this morning. Roschon Johnson suffered a concussion. Khalil Herbert out with a high ankle sprain, likely to miss a few weeks. So they need to get Roschon out of that concussion protocol for him to take over that backfield, which we've all kind of saw coming.
So hopefully he'll be okay if it's not too serious.
Matt Milano carted off with what looks like a serious knee injury, and they had just lost Tre'Davious White last week. Zay Jones comes back to another knee injury. London's going to have some questions to answer with the injuries that we're dealing with over in those games. Trevor Lawrence dealing with a calf injury. I didn't even see this one actually happen. It was during a sack on Sunday's game. Anthony Richardson, right shoulder injury. They're calling it a grade 3 AC joint. Most people are saying it's an IR candidate type move. Daniel Jones left the game with a neck injury. Tank Dell with a concussion. James Conner with a knee injury, no issue on the severity. Travis Kelce left with a it looked really, really bad. And then I'm really getting tired of the media showing the helmet throws and everything. It was a fucking low ankle sprain, which we really don't even hear about. He comes back into the game, plays his ass off, scores a touchdown. Justin Jefferson, hamstring injury, and Dak Prescott dealing with a finger injury on his throwing hand. It's not the same finger injury he was dealing with before, was it? Isn't that, he was just dealing with that last year, if I remember correctly.
I don't know. It was the middle finger on his right hand.
Okay, I think it was his pinky last time. So
okay. They kept showing pictures of him wrapping it and kind of holding and playing with the finger to try to loosen it up so he could grip the ball. Obviously, it didn't help. He threw 3 picks last night. So, obviously, it's something to keep an eye on. Anytime you've got an injured joint of some kind on your throwing hand, that's going to be an issue and will likely cause interceptions like what he, stuck with last night. So,
yeah. We're going to take a quick look at the chats before we let Josh talk about his Eagles. Caesar, good morning, buddy. Benched Breece Hall, which clearly...
Caesar! He was literally on our show graphic on Wednesday. We were hyping him up. Come on,
bro. This was a very pro Breece Hall show this week.
I get the DJ Moore.
Yeah, 100%.
Get that. But come on, man.
I was very happy.
Revenge game. This is where he injured his knee last year, was in Denver. He was coming back with a vengeance no matter what the situation.
Yeah, I was very happy. I had a league where Keenan Allen was on bye.
He won by 75. That's what matters.
Exactly. I was happy I had a league where Keenan Allen was on bye and had to start DJ Moore. That was the happiest accident of my entire life right there. And Elixir's looking for that Monday miracle. He only needs A.J. Dillon to go for 25 points in a standard league, and I would say
1 out for our buddy Elixirs. But hey, you got that game-winning field goal from Young Wei Koo, homie.
Yeah, I was going to say if you give A.J. Dillon 5 weeks, he might score 25 fantasy points for you. So if they'll retrofit all of those points, A.J. Dillon shouldn't even be on your fucking roster, Elixirs. Do better, buddy. Damn. This is not how you start Monday. This is not how you start Monday, but Josh, you're starting Monday the way you've been starting Monday for many, many consecutive weeks. Definitely the first 5 weeks of each of the last 2 seasons.
Yeah, you're not kidding. Definitely a great win. I was a little nervous us going cross country. Rams have been hot. We were getting Cooper Kupp back.
Hold on, I'm going to stop you. I'm going to stop this train before it gets started. You very much were worried, and you very much talked me into the Eagles losing this game. And my goodness, did I lose money putting money on the Rams? So I'm not exactly happy, but I guess that's payback for the Mark Andrews call from a week ago.
Yeah, exactly, fucker. No, but look, Cooper Kupp did his thing. He had over 100 yards receiving. Puka Nacua 7 for 70 plus and a touchdown. Both those guys went off, and that's exactly what I was expecting to happen. And luckily, our offense finally looked like a really good offense. I understand that putting up 23 points doesn't make it seem that way, but this is the thing with the Eagles offense. They're not going to play the way that San Francisco plays. San Francisco is ruthless. They're going to go out there. They're going to make all the plays. They're going to run all the motions and do all the things that run up the scoreboard. And then when you kick them in the teeth, they can't do shit, as witnessed by last year's NFC Championship game. The Eagles are methodic. They're going to run the football. They're going to eat the clock, and they're going to slow down the pace of the game. So that doesn't always turn into 30, 40-point blowout wins. But here's what I do know. For as great as San Francisco's offense is, guess who's number 2 in total offense? Philadelphia.
Yeah.
Okay? We can move the football. And we've done it through 5 weeks now, where 4 of those weeks we look like crap.
Yep,
so
exactly.
I'm perfectly happy with where this team currently sits. It was a great game for Dallas Goedert. We talked about this leading up to this week, really, especially when it comes to the elite tight ends, where, Dallas Goedert, George Kittle, which we'll get to a little bit later, they're kind of figments of their offense's imagination at this point, but they will use them when they need them. And it sucks for us fantasy managers because we feel like we have to sit them. Otherwise, we're getting absolute duds. I sat Dallas Goedert in my half PPR league for Dalton Kincaid, who I hyped up this week. Dalton Kincaid had the dud. Dallas Goedert goes off on my bench. Fan-fucking-tastic.
Yeah.
But that's the thing about this offense now. It is A.J. Brown, it's Jalen Hurts, and it's DeAndre Swift. Smitty, and Dallas Goedert are going to be the interchangeable guys. Smitty had 1 catch for 6 yards today, or yesterday, excuse me. Not great, but Dallas Goedert goes off. He had 4 catches for 45 yards and a touchdown on the first drive. First drive. Finishes the game, 8 catches, 117 yards.
To me, that speaks volumes to they came into this game and said, we are getting Dallas Goedert involved, plain and simple. But
they said that after week 1, too, and they didn't. So
but I'm kind of
hard to take that level of coach speak.
Oh, no. I'm not even saying coach speak, though. I'm just saying game plan wise, they scripted that first drive for Dallas Goedert. You can't convince me of
No, 100%. And that's what these teams do. They typically script out the first 15 to 20 plays, and they're going. And the thing with the Eagles offense is when they script out plays, they're going to make those happen. Yep. They're not likely going to get beat off of their play calls. Nope. Jalen Hurts' 5th career 300-yard passing game. This is not back-to-back weeks, if I'm not mistaken. He's tossed for over 300 yards. He's coming into his own as an actual quarterback, not just a quarterback that can run the football. Although he did that pretty well this week, too.
I was going to say, so I think he shut most of his haters up last season, but they're down bad at this point because he's doing it. So.
He's doing his damn thing. Like, he's getting it. And once again, the thing that I love the most, Aaron Donald has sacks against 30 NFL teams. The Eagles are one of 2 teams that he has never recorded a sack against. Shout out Jason Kelce and that fantastic offensive line for keeping Aaron Donald in check once again. Sticking with the defensive tackle team, Jalen Carter is a fucking dog. And not just a Georgia Bulldog, but a fucking dog. 2 more sacks, 2 QB hits again to go with that. If he's not your defensive rookie of the year by the end of this season, holy crap, because he is doing it. And shout out to the rest of the NFL for letting this guy fall to us in pick 9, because thank you.
Yeah, works out real well. Mark
Hassan Reddick doing his thing too.
Mark backstage throws in that he's certain Dallas Goedert's going to get going. So as Josh said, it's hard to trust coach speak, but the writing was on the wall for a big Dallas Goedert week.
No, it truthfully was. And welcome back, Hassan Reddick. I mentioned this last week too. He's been awfully quiet through the first quarter of the season. I understand he was coming off I think it was a thumb surgery. Just got his cast off before the week 4 game. Did register a sack in that game. Crucial 4th quarter drive towards the end of the game. He ends up with back-to-back sacks to bring it home and get us to secure the win for us. Extremely happy about that. Losing Avonte Maddox, we ended up signing Bradley Roby to the practice squad. They activated him for this game. Cooper Kupp was pretty silent in the second half of that game. Bradley Roby allowed 2 catches for negative yards in this game. Like, I'm fine with how Roby came in and played. Problems with James Bradbury, though. Let me tell you, homeboy was getting burnt all fucking game. Not loving that, but the defense did look better in the second half. I think that now that Reddick is finally starting to come back into his own, feeling a little bit more like himself, that's truly what we needed. Because Josh Sweat was bringing the pressure, wasn't finishing the drives, but he was bringing the pressure. Once Hassan Reddick gets going, the way that Jalen Carter has been playing, the way that Jordan Davis has been playing, Josh Sweat has been playing, this defensive line is going to start getting after it, and that's only going to make life easier on the back end, especially at the safety position, where that truly is our biggest weakness right now. So things are still coming together, but
you guys broke the NFL record or came close to it for sacks last year. And so not seeing that this year, it's not just a coordinator thing. You needed Hassan Reddick to show he's still Hassan Reddick. He's worth the money he got paid. Me and Joe will fight all lifelong about whether or not Hassan Reddick is a good pass rusher. I mean,
he had 2 tackles, 2 of them were sacks. So like Joe's not wrong, but you're not wrong either. Like a good pass rusher, they're not stopping the run. They're getting after the quarterback.
All right, so I'm going to get a couple of comments on the screen. I'm going to start with Elixirs because I've already mentioned it to Elio, but we're going to move on to this one a little bit. But Elixirs wants to know if we're starting Gibbs, Rachaad White, or A.J. Dillon. The answer is Gibbs. Elixirs, for Christ's sake, the man scores 9 to 11 points every week, and when he starts finding the end zone, he's going to be just fine. I'm not worried about Jahmyr Gibbs, though. David Montgomery, that dude, no ifs, ands, or buts about it. So I'm not worried about Jahmyr Gibbs. I mentioned it, especially in Dynasty. You're not talking about Dynasty. I'm buying Jahmyr Gibbs everywhere. I'm not worried. Josh, I'm actually going to let you answer this question because you and I have a fundamental disagreement here. And you actually said you were going to put him on your sell list. He has Derrick Henry, or she, I think it's a he, looking at the profile picture. Who should they try to trade Derrick Henry for? I am actually in the category that I would be buying Derrick Henry and that I'm not panicking about Derrick Henry. I'm going to let Josh talk about who I would be offering him for or who you would be looking to get back on Derrick Henry, Josh.
I mean, right now, he's a RB1 in name and a low end to mid RB2 at best because his snap share is consistently going down. Tyjae Spears is absolutely electric. Amazing. With the football in his hands. I believe he scored a receiving touchdown yesterday.
Yep.
So, like,
they must
right
now,
Henry's
just called it a rushing touchdown. I thought it was receiving as well.
I thought it was receiving too. Okay.
I'm looking at his stats. They're calling it rushing. So,
all right, that's fine. But regardless, he scored a touchdown. Touchdowns have been few and far between for Derrick Henry this year. I think he's only scored in one game.
Yep.
Like
2 touchdowns, one game.
It's just, it's not. And I understand there's issues with this Tennessee Titans offense. Like, you look at Ryan Tannehill, some plays he looks like really fucking good. And then other plays you're like, dude, you don't even deserve to be in the XFL at this point. Like, what the fuck? And I get it, not having their full complement of wide receivers. I mean, outside of DeAndre Hopkins, is this even a wide receiver room? Like, we've all wanted Treylon Burks to be something, but he just can't stay healthy. Keeps getting hurt. And they're trying to scheme him plays. And when they can do that, he does pretty well, but he can't do it on his own right now. And I know part of that is just being a young wide receiver, and they do take time to blossom. We've seen it now with Nico Collins. Some receivers never get to that point. Some take forever, like Devontae Parker did. It's just the nature of the game, unfortunately. But this is an offense that is built around the running game, and outside of Tyjae Spears, they're just not doing much. This is a makeshift offensive line. Derrick Henry is having to play like a Najee Harris role where he kind of has to be a 6th offensive lineman and to create his own damn space. After a while, that just wears on you. And he's been doing that now for 6-7 years, it feels like. So
I do have a caveat to my segment later in the show. I do have that this is likely his swan song. So right now, he is the RB14. Yeah, he's the RB14 in PPR. What pieces are you looking back for if you move Derrick Henry?
Oh, let me see what other running backs are around him.
I'll throw out 2 names that people seem to be worried about. And again, I am not on the I'm selling Derrick Henry train. However, people seem to think they're selling high on David Montgomery. I yelled at good friends of the show this past week on Wednesday. You are selling low no matter what you sell David Montgomery for if it's not Christian McCaffrey at this point. He's going to score 15 touchdowns. DeAndre Swift, I don't think people want to believe in him. If I could get those guys back, and I'm just giving you reasonable offers right now. David Montgomery, DeAndre Swift, if I could get those guys back, I'm making that move for Derrick Henry.
I'll throw out even a couple others that are ranked right ahead of Derrick Henry. Isaiah Pacheco and Brian Robinson.
Yeah, we're going to talk about
Pacheco. Those are guys that are right now in better offenses that are performing better, and you're still early enough in the season to where you can get by on selling Derrick Henry's name for, like a Pacheco plus maybe an upside wide receiver 3, Brian Robinson plus an upside wide receiver 3. Like, you can go that route.
And I think you maybe even get wide receiver 2s when it comes to Brian Robinson.
Potentially. So. Absolutely.
No, those would be the kind of deals I would make. Just if you're selling him, get good value out of him. That's my biggest concern because you're going to see people. And while we've talked about Pacheco, we'll get to the segments of the show here in a second. Our buddy George, he's feeling pretty confident about rolling Pacheco out as his RB2 moving forward. Would we sell either Aaron Jones or Tony Pollard? I just want to throw out here, we're going to actually get in on Tony Pollard here in just a few segments. But I think out of these 2, Pollard holds more value than Aaron Jones. And we're going to talk about that in just a few seconds. Would you rather have a top wide receiver than 3 starting running backs? That is a question to the heart of club fantasy. Joe and I would rather hold running backs all day long. Josh, you're 50-50. If you have these 3 running backs and there's a good wide receiver you can trade, you're going to go make that trade or no?
Yeah, right now the wide receivers are scoring way more fantasy points than running backs right now. And I feel like we fall into this trap every single year. It's like we want to believe that the running back position is not going anywhere. But outside of Christian McCaffrey, and I'll throw Austin Eckler into that conversation, even though he's missed the last 4 games or 3 games, like there's nobody else. There really isn't anybody else right now that's putting up the level of consistent fantasy points per game than wide receivers right now.
Yeah.
I mean, Ja'Marr Chase was basically silent for 3 weeks. Now 2 weeks, these last 2 weeks, he's wide receiver 5 on the season. Like, that's the type of impact that wide receivers can make, but people still hold running backs in such high regard simply because it's a scarce position. So they'll sell a wide receiver 1 for a running back 1, even though that wide receiver is scoring 30 more fantasy points on the season than that running back 1. That's just the nature of it right now.
The easiest click for me is showing the RB 18 and the wide receiver 18. There's already a 3 points per game difference between those two, and that's just at 18. So Josh is absolutely right. And again, we're going to talk more about Pollard later and Josh's thoughts on him. So stick with us, George. I know you will. First segment, shot of espresso. I guess it's not the first segment. I always say the first segment, but it's the first segment where we talk about someone other than the Eagles. But the next segment, the shot of espresso, the quality performance that keeps the juices flowing. Josh, you went with duos this week, and my goodness, is this just a list of names that you are very happy if you have on your fantasy team, right?
Yeah, and I'll tell you, in our Club Fantasy Dynasty League, where I literally just traded for Ja'Marr Chase, to the fucking moon, baby, because damn.
So
woo, I have been targets.
I have been vocally against the Bengals offense. Still not sold on Joe Burr, but my goodness, Ja'Marr Chase is him, Josh, as you have in your notes.
I literally said this in the offseason. I hyped it up. Ja'Marr Chase is my wide receiver 1 going into 2023. And these last 2 weeks, he has looked that part. There is no reason for him not to see a 30+% target share in this offense. I get that you have T. Higgins. Right now you don't because he's dealing with a rib fracture. But he is hands down one of the top 3 to 5 wide receivers in this game. And those are the types of players that should be seeing the football 30+% of the time. 19 targets this past week, 15 catches, 192 yards and 3 touchdowns. And once again, going back to my wide receiver 1 argument for Ja'Marr Chase, he has the highest percent of touchdown to catches or games played in the NFL over the last 2 years. He scored 23 touchdowns in 29 career games over the first 3 seasons. That is better than every freaking wide receiver in the NFL. This is what this guy does. He said it at the conclusion of last week's game. I am always fucking open. He is always fucking open.
Yeah, they listened.
It's just like that. These are the things that you want to see. T. Higgins needs to be as great as I think he is. He's an ancillary piece in this offense. He can get downfield, sure. Ja'Marr Chase is just flat out better. That's why he was the 5th overall pick, and that's why T. Higgins was the 2nd round pick.
And how they should be using them is fantasy managers are gonna hate to hear this. Higgins is a wonderful red zone target. So if he's taking the touchdowns away, so be it. But there's no reason to target anyone besides Ja'Marr Chase between the 20s, plain and simple.
And it's the absolute truth. And I'll shift gears here to Joe Burrow real quick. I mean, 78.3% completion percentage, no lingering issues with the calf. Our good friend Laura Oakman talked to him after the game. He said he felt way better going into this game. And judging by the conclusion of the game, he ended up throwing the football 46 times. I was very surprised by that. But look, I've been shitting on Joe Mixon all offseason too. That's why you're throwing the football 46 times, because Joe Mixon ain't it. 317 yards, 3 touchdowns, the 1 pick for Burrow. Maybe we can officially start picking on that Arizona Cardinals defense. Finally, like they're starting to show their true colors. They had a good 4-game stretch. Fantastic. Josh Dobbs looked like the Josh Dobbs that we thought we were getting heading into this season.
Exactly.
But, good players need get-right games. This was that get-right game for Joe Burrow. And if that continues, Ja'Marr Chase is only going up from here.
Yeah, Joe Burrow just needed that warm Arizona heat, that dry heat to fix his leg, apparently.
Hey, you know what? Sometimes you need a little heat with the cold to loosen up the muscles a little bit,
I love it.
But switching gears to the Miami Dolphins. Whoo, boy! Devon, Achane, and Tyreek Hill. I mean, this is really like Fast and Furious or Fast and Faster. Like,
Did you get to watch any of the game? I know you had a lot going on yesterday.
Yeah.
Okay,
that was the local broadcast game.
Okay, perfect. Did you see where they spent so much time talking about how Achane might be the fastest person and how he ran 21.8 miles an hour, and then like 2 plays later, Tyreek Hill ran the fastest in the NFL this season? Like how
22.01 miles per hour. Like what? Good God. Yeah.
I feel like they're competing against each other now.
They probably are. And you know what? Bring it. Competition
yeah,
breeds excellence. That's the way that I look at it. But I mean, for everything that Tyreek Hill is doing, he's been doing this for a long time. So at this point, it's really not that impressive. Devon Achane totaled 165 yards yesterday on 12 touches.
Yeah.
Like we sit here and talk all the time about, efficiency, it can't sustain itself, this and that, et cetera, et cetera. Really? It looks like it's sustaining itself because Achane just keeps fucking doing it and keeps scoring touchdowns. Like, what is he up to? 9 touchdowns total on the season?
Total, I believe, yes.
Feels like that. Like, good God, 151 rushing yards on 11 carries. Like, this is like rookie. Like,
this is
what I remember from like Jamal Charles.
Yeah.
And from Chris Johnson. I remember seeing it. I think it was from Mike Renner from Pro Football Focus, where he's like, this is the closest thing I've seen to Chris Johnson since Chris Johnson himself. Like, that is what Devon Achane is doing right now with the football in his hands. He is a must start. I don't care if he's only touching the ball 7 times a game. You're starting him. It's just unfathomable what he is doing. And right now he's doing it in tandem with Raheem Mostert, who is a 31-year-old running back. Those old legs are going to get tired at some point. Achane to the fucking moon. And if you balance that with Jeff Wilson, who may not be as efficient because he's not near as fast, I think honestly that's going to make Achane better. And it might actually make this offense better as well. So,
and that's Jeff Wilson got this like false misnomer of being a pass catching back when San Francisco was like forced to use him that way. He's never been that good at that. Let me be very fucking clear. So
yeah, those numbers in college at A&M were kind of meh, but everybody just like they pigeonhole these like, body types into pass catching roles, right? And there's sometimes where these smaller guys just aren't as great as pass catchers, but they're like, oh, well, that should be their role. Well, if they suck at it, they suck at it. It's not going to be their role, But and I think this is the real BMI argument right here for Devon Achane, because he's a smaller guy. I think he's 5'8", but he's like 185, 188. So he has a naturally higher BMI. And I'm going to bring that up in a later segment here too, because this is what helps sustain guys over the long term is when they have that body mass that is a little bit different for players at certain sizes. That's what's going to help players last in the NFL. And I think we're really starting to shift into a smaller players. They can play in this league. They don't have to be, the bigger body types. Like right now, I feel like we're just kind of getting to we're in this era where if we get 2 to 3 good years out of you, let's fucking go. I don't care. Like Dynasty needs to be played in those windows anyway. They don't need to be played in 5 to 7 year windows because that's just not the way this game is. It's such a high impact sport. Injuries happen. They're going to take their toll. Just fucking enjoy it while it happens. That's kind of where I'm at with Devon Achane and especially Tyreek Hill. And just to touch on him, 8 catches, 181 yards, another touchdown. Like the dude is just fucking good.
I mean, Joe Zolo in the club, the no pun intended chat, me, you, and Joe. The first thing out of his mouth after game 1 was Tyreek Hill is going to break records this year.
He's got 3 games over 150 yards, I believe.
Yeah.
Like, and 1 over 200. Yeah. And especially now with Justin Jefferson and a hamstring injury, Tyreek Hill is leading the league in receiving yards this year. Yeah, I think you can take that to the bank. Even if it's negative money, go bet all of it on there because you're going to win.
Take that profit.
But switching gears to the Thursday night game, Justin Fields, man, keep doing it. We were literally on the sell your Bears bandwagon last week. And this one kind of hurts. But look, Justin Fields started a little slow last year too. He really didn't start going until week 5. Started 1 week early this year in week 4. But from week 5 through week 17 last year, here's where these were his quarterback finishes. QB 13, QB 8, QB 5, QB 5, QB 1, QB 1, QB 7, missed due to injury, QB 5, bye week, QB 7, 25, bad game, finish the year, week 17, QB 10. He's starting to get going. And the best part about this, he's doing it as a passer.
Yep.
He's starting to finally figure it out. I still think there's some mechanical hiccups there, but we talk all the time about the lack of preseason games and kind of throwing off these early season matchups for the players. The coaches need that time too, because Luke Getsy in the first month of the season
had no fucking idea what he was doing.
Yeah. Yep. He's like, there are college offensive coordinators that are calling better games than he is right now.
Yeah.
But he's starting to finally figure it out. You have to get DJ Moore in space. And right now, that is where he is making his money. He currently leads the NFL in yards after the catch. A minimum of 25 targets. He is second in ADOT, which, yes, he's not even doing it on the quick pick and pop plays where he can utilize the yards after the catch. He's doing it downfield.
But let's be clear. The quick pick and pop plays, he looks different from anybody not named Tyreek Hill in the entire NFL.
Yeah. Go ahead.
We joked in the preseason when we saw him score those 2 touchdowns that he couldn't do that every game. Yes, the fuck he can. Like, I'll take the L here. You already brought it up. We were saying sell your Bears. If this is what we're going to get, even Cole Kmet, you can't sell these people at this point.
No, not at all. And the one thing that I love right now about DJ Moore is that he has the highest catch percentage of his entire career. We all talked about, hey, just get this guy a quarterback. And the mechanics with Justin Fields, we were all kind of like, is that really what we were talking about when we said get this guy a quarterback? Right now, he is connecting with Fields at almost an 80% catch percent.
Yeah.
Last Thursday, he was the only wide receiver on the Chicago Bears to record a stat. 230 passing yards, 2 wide receivers from Justin Fields, and all 230 went to DJ Moore.
And I think
that
63%
right
of it came on 3 passes.
He's the only player in NFL's history to have over 500 receiving yards and 5 touchdowns in 5 games with a new team.
Yeah.
Like that's just an unheard of stat. He is on pace to shatter his career high in touchdown receptions. He had 7 last year. That was a career high. And before that, he'd never had more than 4. He has 5 in 5 games right now. DJ Moore is fucking doing it.
So the comments just happen to have lent themselves to Moore the entire time. Our buddy Mark right now, work league carried by Chase and Achane, Moore rotted on the bench. That's another. We take our victory laps, we take our L's. We told a lot of people that DJ Moore, I don't want to say we didn't say he was a play, but we didn't think he was that's for sure. And then I do want to quickly throw one more thing to Mark. Mark, a Bears fan, so he's been dragging his heels on buying a Moore jersey, but you were already a Moore guy. Go get a DJ Moore jersey. Do yourself a favor.
Go get it.
But this is interesting, Josh, because this is literally trading the most efficient wide receiver in the NFL now, second most efficient wide receiver in the NFL, for what you hope is the best fantasy tight end. Hunter Henry has fallen way off the map after 2 weeks, unless this is Derrick Henry, but I imagine it's Hunter Henry. And then you have T. Higgins here. Which side of this trade are you on, Joshua? Because for me, and I'm going to stick to my credo here, get the side that gets Travis Kelce all day long. T. Higgins just showed us he has multi-touchdown bags in his repertoire as well. You hope the Bengals offense is going to improve, but for me, get Travis Kelce all day long. Josh.
Yeah, I mean, if this is Hunter Henry, give me Travis Kelce. If it's Derrick Henry, I think I'm siding on the DJ Moore side. And that's me as a fading Derrick Henry kind of player. But he's still, like I said, he's going to get you RB2 numbers. The way that this tight end market right now is going, like we finally see the elite tight end showing up in week 5, but it's been very plug and play. Like you can stream the position. And right now, I think I want DJ Moore over Travis Kelce at that point. Like, with all things being equal, like, give me DJ Moore.
Josh, I know you have an honorable mention. I'm gonna let you come back to that, but let me talk about my thing that my shot of espresso was seeing the elite tight ends as a fan of good tight end play in fantasy football. Seeing the elite tight ends, even as someone who encourages streaming, it's good to see these guys play well. And I just want to break down the numbers if you didn't pay attention yesterday. George Kittle, 27 points. 3 targets, though. Josh kind of already touched on this. They're plug and play when it makes sense. Three targets, 3 touchdowns. That's not elite usage. They just happen to all go for touchdowns, and that really saved him. Dallas Goedert did get elite usage. We needed to see those 9 targets out of him. 25 fantasy points. Josh already talked about the big week out of Goddard. But again, Josh has been saying for 2 years now, it's Devonta Smith or Goddard or A.J. Brown. One is going to go away. It's choosing which one's going to be what. Travis Kelce overcoming that injury, scaring half the world's population, 22 fantasy points. Sam Laporta is an elite tight end, and you're a fool if you're trying to convince yourself otherwise. He belongs in this tier, 19 fantasy points. And then Dalton Schultz, 19 fantasy points. Darren Waller, 16 fantasy points. Kyle fucking Pitts, 15 fantasy points. Mark Andrews, 12. TJ Hawkinson, 10. This is what we signed up for. When we drafted these guys, every one of those guys was the first 10 tight ends drafted in your draft. Maybe the exception of Laporta, unless you had a believer in your league. This is what we signed up for when we drafted those elite tight ends. But I want to go all the way back to Josh's point, to this trade. If that's Hunter Henry, we've seen guys like Hunter Henry, who was the tight end 1 for the first 2 weeks. So the elite tight end play, if you're not seeing elite usage, don't be afraid to trade them. Cole Kmet is seeing better usage than George Kittle is right now. And you can't depend on 3 touchdowns every week. Josh, go ahead with your honorable mention for Shot of Espresso.
Yeah, for me, it's, look, the Nathaniel Hackett revenge game, baby. The Jets take down the Broncos 31-21. We talked about it on Wednesday, and by we, I mean you and Joe, because I wasn't there, unfortunately. But we you know, and really the entire fantasy community was saying this is Breece Hall week.
Yep.
Put him in your lineup. There's no reason to bench him. The Broncos defense has been horrendous this year. And as I mentioned, for as much as this was a Nathaniel Hackett revenge game, this was a Breece Hall revenge game. This was the game last year in Denver where Breece Hall tore his ACL. We've been waiting for the Breece Hall coming out party. This was it. 22 rushes, 177 yards, 1 touchdown, another 3 catches, 17 yards receiving. He did it. Like, this is what we've been waiting for, and why we've been wondering why the Jets have been trotting out Dalvin Cook. Breece Hall is just better. Dalvin Cook's had his time. Right now, he's a highly paid backup running back. Yep. That's it. Stop using him just because you're paying him. It's okay to not. It's okay to say, damn, we wasted our money. But you know what? We protected our guy for the first 4 weeks of the season. It's okay. That's fine.
Yeah.
Deal with that.
Breece
Go
Hall
play Breece Hall.
Was already at 6.8 yards per carry. He's up to 7.2 yards per carry now. And obviously, that's not really lighting a candle to Devin Achane. But again, 7.2 is nothing to sneeze at for a fantasy running back. I love it. Josh, morning mimosas. We got that feeling that something good is coming on the horizon. Go for it, buddy.
For me, it's CJ Stroud, because hot damn. Like, I know, and you've talked about this on Twitter, Ryan, that you feel like Puka Nacua should have been the offensive rookie of the month for September because he's literally breaking records. CJ Stroud is literally breaking records too.
Yeah,
and the quarterback position is always going to see more value in any award scenario than a wide receiver. Now, granted, I would have given the nod to Puka Nacua too. Dude was a 5th round pick. CJ Stroud was the 2nd overall pick. You expect him to be good.
100%.
He has been absolutely fantastic. 186 straight pass attempts to begin his career without an interception. And this is not just dinking and dunking. He's averaging 292.2 yards per game.
Yeah.
He is absolutely doing it. And I understand that the Texans right now are 2-3. So maybe all of this is just, for naught. Give the kid some time, but give this defense time. They're starting to find themselves here within this DeMeco Ryans system. They shut down Bijan Robinson this past week. They held one of the best, if not the best, rushing attacks in the NFL over the last year plus to 96 rushing yards and 2.7 yards per carry. They got burnt by the tight end, and that's kind of been their MO, unfortunately, this year because DeMeco Ryans doesn't have Fred Warner in his defense. Exactly. But they've allowed 355 receiving yards to tight ends through 5 games. This is slowly starting to become start your tight ends against the Texans and fade your running backs because damn. Now,
What's funny
Bijan
is I'm pretty
saved
sure
himself on that touchdown, but
I'm pretty sure DeMeco Ryans was playing for the Eagles when you needed to start your tight end against the Eagles too. Maybe DeMeco Ryans just doesn't know what the fuck to do with tight ends.
Well, he just needs to find himself another Fred Warner. He's got to find.
That's it.
Yeah, right.
Just find
that easy.
The best cover linebacker in the NFL again, and you're gonna be fine.
I mean, that's really what it boils down to. I mean, Denzel Perriman, they brought him in. He's a good run stuffer. That's it. They don't have a legitimate, like, free rangey sideline to sideline outside linebacker that can truly cover tight ends. We've been waiting for the Kyle Pitts game. I didn't think it would be this week, but hey, you know what? And we'll get to kind of my issues with Arthur Smith a little bit later, which I feel like we've kind of been beating a dead horse on that one. But yeah, CJ Stroud, he is him. And I just want to give a quick shout out here to Mike McDaniel.
Amazing.
This press conference, holy crap. I fucking love this dude because you ask him a question. Hey, guess what? You're putting up historic numbers through 5 weeks. Paraphrasing. Yeah, because that's our goal to do it through 5 weeks of the season.
He said that was the season goal was to be the best offense in league history through 5 weeks.
Dude is just a walking quote book. It just reminds me of like Yogi Berra. And of course, I'm not old enough to know like when Yogi Berra was playing in Elite, but like those press conferences after the game, like Yogi-isms, we're getting the Mike McDaniel-isms. That's what we're getting right now.
Did you see where they traded for Chase Claypool and someone asked why they got Claypool and he's like, "You're gonna make me say it. He's fast." It's like that. That's why we're acquiring players. Mike McDaniels is a national treasure at this point.
And then a quick shout out to the Dallas Cowboys because hey, this is the tingly feeling, right? This offense is dog shit. They ain't it. And I'm gonna. I saw somebody on Twitter.
So just to clarify, Josh's tingly feeling is for himself, not for Cowboys fans, not for...
Oh, no, it's for Cowboys fans. Expect depression this year. They are not a good team, okay? The hierarchy of the NFC is San Francisco, it's Philadelphia, and then it's everybody else. Yeah, you are not them boys, I promise you.
Well, the problem is they are the boys, but they're playing men, and it's just not working out for a while.
Exactly. You can pin it all on losing Trayvon Diggs if you want. Micah Parsons is supposed to be a difference maker. If he needed Trayvon Diggs to be a difference maker, I think there's a problem there. That's all I'm going to say. And no disrespect to Micah Parsons because I love him as a player. I think he's absolutely fantastic. He should have won Defensive Player of the Year last year, just my personal opinion. But this San Francisco offensive line, I don't think is that good outside of Trent Williams. They really are not. They're just so good about utilizing motions and getting their talented playmakers in space that it makes life easier on their offensive line because that's what a good offensive coordinator can do. You can mask your deficiencies through play calling, through motions, all of the et cetera. So, yeah. But this offense right now, Dak Prescott, he showed his true colors last year. He's coming up for a contract extension talk after this offseason. If Dallas gives it to him, they're just settling for mediocrity at this point.
But the problem is you saw what Daniel Jones got. And it's just like, we were furious when that happened.
Yeah. So. And I get it. Like, you need a quarterback in this league, but there's a difference between needing a quarterback and then needing to pay a mediocre quarterback.
Yep.
You don't need to pay a mediocre quarterback. Just my personal opinion. But
I agree.
I saw this on Twitter, and I wish I remembered who it was, but this comparison was just spot on for me in talking about Tony Pollard, who, by the way, right now is the RB10 on the season. Nothing to shake a stick at. Like he's doing fine. But the way that everybody was talking him up, he was going to be a top 3 running back this year.
100%.
He's averaging 4.2 yards per carry, which is considerably down from last year. We talked about this all the time.
Not good in today's NFL.
Yeah. Backup running backs, they're supposed to be more efficient. And that's exactly what he was.
It used to be the tagline of this show.
Yeah. And he is not that this year. So 4.2 yards per carry, 2 touchdowns, only 96 receiving yards through 5 games. And he has 14.9 fantasy points per game. Solid. Meh. You drafted him for the upside, and right now he's not providing you any upside.
I mean, there's no upside in that offense.
No, there isn't. But the comparison that I was talking about, remember back when Lamar Miller was balling out for the Dolphins in kind of like a limited, a highly efficient role, and everybody's like, yo, give this guy a starting spot. And then he ends up taking a free agent deal to go to the Texans. And he didn't have like terrible seasons, but he wasn't the same efficient back. Now, granted, those Houston Texans offenses were kind of shitty. So they didn't lend themselves to a lot of highly efficient
roles.
The
same as Dallas.
But right now it's the same as Dallas. The Dallas offense sucks.
George says the only thing Pollard has going for him is that Kavontae Turpine, I think it's Kavontae Turpine, has a high ankle sprain and is going to miss 4 to 6 weeks. Who thought we would be saying that at the beginning of the season?
If that's your redeeming quality there for Tony Pollard, sell him now. That's all I got.
Very, very, very rough situation for the Dallas Cowboys right now. For me, keep an eye on Jonathan Mingo. I was lucky enough to cover the Panthers for the football guys this preseason. And the kid is a very, very good run blocker as a rookie wide receiver. And again, we talk about sometimes, especially for fantasy tight ends, that's the kiss of death. But for wide receivers, it's getting him on the field. He played so many snaps in their first 2 games before he went out with that concussion. Comes back this week, 7 targets. Bryce Young is still going to be a good player, in my opinion. He's not CJ Stroud. He's not starting like CJ Stroud. While Adam Thielen is the one, there's still a vacuum on this team for the wide receiver 2 role. And we're seeing decent plays out of DJ Chark. I think Mingo by the end of October is going to be the wide receiver 2 in this offense just by the sheer amount of snaps he's on the field and the trust he's gaining. Keep an eye on this kid. Josh, we got the hangover. These are the biggest head scratchers of the week, and there were quite a few. I'm going to go into mine just because you have a lot, and I want you to be able to go over it. But I am bothered. We touched on this earlier in the show by the Patriots offense in general. And I don't have answers. Let me be clear. I'm not a Patriots fan. I wish Joe could have done the show today, but we would never get out of the show. I'm going to let you talk about Rhamondre Stevenson because you have him coming up later in the show. But why go back to Mac Jones and then bench him in back-to-back weeks? Maybe it's time to see if Bailey Zappi can be the guy there. Maybe this preseason bullshit that Bailey Zappi was so far behind Mac Jones, if he's that far behind Mac Jones, and I get benching Mac Jones this week when you're down 34-0, but like maybe it's time to find out what you have there. Why more targets to Ezekiel Elliott than Rhamondre Stevenson? Why more targets to Ty Montgomery than Rhamondre Stevenson? He's tied for second among targets on the team. And then what the hell has happened to Hunter Henry over these last 2 weeks? These are my head scratchers. I don't have answers, but what I can tell you is there should not be a New England Patriot in a fantasy football starting lineup under any circumstance right now. Not a single one with the exception, and this is hilarious, of Kendrick Bourne as a wide receiver 3. He is the only trustworthy part of this offense right now, Josh.
I don't even know about that.
That's what I'm saying. If Kendrick Bourne is your he's never been trustworthy. He's a boom or bust guy, and this is the closest we have to trustworthy right now. And this is with a offensive coordinator here. Like, go back to the fucking defensive coordinators at this point if they're going to at least throw the ball to Rhamondre.
Yeah, I read an article on foxsports.com. I think it was Henry McKenna, I believe, was the author of it. And they were talking about, the idea behind drafting Mac Jones and how he was the ultimate game manager that could, get all of your weapons, the football, and make the offense hum, right?
Yeah.
That doesn't work when you don't have playmakers.
Yeah, it also doesn't work when he throws 6 interceptions in 5 games. That can't be
there's that too.
Game manager shit.
Yeah, there's definitely that too. But like when your number 1 wide receiver is Devontae Parker, this isn't 2016 anymore. Or whenever Devontae Parker was actually good, You whiffed on N'Keal Harry. Tyquan Thornton is still hurt, and there were a lot of questions with him coming out. I mean, you took Thornton over George Pickens, right? You took N'Keal Harry over fucking AJ Brown and DK Metcalf and a slew of other fantastic wide receivers. And it's just Bill Belichick is so set in his like Patriot way that he will not go out and draft talented players if there's some sort of mental makeup that doesn't allow them to buy into that.
Or if he sees an imaginary edge somewhere else and takes Old Strange in the second round.
He's lived on this reputation of, I can turn foos gold into real gold. Yeah. He's maybe been able to do that on defense. He has never been able to do that on offense. Tom Brady is the one that's been able to turn guys like Julian Edelman into, players that we know and talk about. Not Belichick. He's not an offensive guy. And bringing in Bill O'Brien, who's worked within, this Patriot way and all these different things. I I still believe in Bill O'Brien as an offensive play caller. It's just he has nothing right now. He has nothing to work with. None. They didn't go get Brandon Cooks. They didn't go get DeAndre Hopkins. Like, you can't expect Kendrick Bourne and fucking look. Juju's never been good. I'm sorry. Like, I don't understand why you would bring him in when you had a guy already there that was good, and you ended up paying Juju the same money.
The Russian roulette they played with Jacoby Myers is an enormous mistake. It feels Kellen Moore-esque.
Absolutely horrendous. It's just
go for your hangovers as well, Josh.
Yeah, I mean, my biggest thing right now is Arthur Smith, and we've beat this dead horse enough that I don't want to spend too much time on it. But like, when you look at this game, the passing, but they threw for over 300 yards this week. Desmond Ridder was on it. And then they had the pass for Drake London, they called it. It was a 22-yard pass. Like, great, cool. But then they can't fucking run the ball. Like, I get that, good teams and good play callers, like, you're going to take what the defense gives you. And Philly has been a prime example of that. And especially going back to last year, like, Tennessee does really well stopping the run. So what's Jalen Hurts do? He throws for 400 yards or whatever it was. Like, they didn't run for very much. But this game, like, they were trying to run the football and just could not do it. And then said, all right, well, we're just going to throw the football. And I mean, Tennessee's been pretty solid at stopping wide receivers. And then you said, look, we're going to give Desmond Ridder the chance to let him throw the football. Maybe you need to do this more often, because that apparently is what builds this kid's confidence. He's targeting Kyle Pitts. He's targeting Drake London. Jonnu Smith is getting involved. Those are your top 3 pass catching options, sans Bijan Robinson, who I think only had 2 targets in this game.
Yeah.
Something like that. Like, I can't figure this out. And then these close wins, like, these are the things that are going to come back and bite you in the ass. Just ask the Minnesota Vikings. Yep. They went 11-0 in one-score games last year. They have not won a one-score game yet this year. Great. You have a fantastic kicker in Younghoe Koo. Cool. You're beating not great teams closely.
Yeah, I was going to say, the Vikings one-score wins versus the Falcons one-score wins are apples and oranges.
That's what I'm saying.
The Vikings
These are
were
very different
teams.
Yeah. Like, this is what's going to get you fired in 2024 if you survive 2023. Because you're relying on these close wins to, not pander to fantasy football players and all this crap. Like, great. You got your receivers in football. Call me a balanced game, please. Help me understand you. Because right now, myself and no one else understands what you're trying to do with this Atlanta Falcons offense at all.
Yeah. We
can answer the questions. The other two, Najee,
we're going to talk more about the wide receivers a little bit later. So, first of all, let's get George back up because it's just after last segment. What can we get for Tony Pollard right now? This feels very much like the Derrick Henry question. You're just going to need to hope someone in your league believes in Tony Pollard, because I don't know that the trade value is there. I don't think you could pull off David Montgomery for Tony Pollard right now. I don't think you could pull off, what was the other name I mentioned? DeAndre Swift for Tony Pollard. Those would be names I would attack. When you look down, I like what Josh said. Pacheco in a piece, Brian Robinson in a piece, Derrick Henry in a piece. Like, it's find someone who's willing to give you that extra piece to give you another running back too.
I'm all for it. I think those are all good options, honestly.
And then Vinny,
except for Derrick Henry, but
yeah, I know you're not with Derrick Henry there. Vinny says he has the privilege of having Bijan Robinson, Kenneth Walker, Alvin Kamara on his team. He can only start 2 every week. I think I can answer for both of us here. We're going to tell you to start the first 2 guys. We're not a big Alvin Kamara show. This week was very much led by the matchup and the 34-0 beatdown. He obviously had 18 points, but if you look how inefficient he was in week 1, I'm going to start the upside of the 2 younger backs, Josh.
Yeah, I don't hate that. I mean, I think with Bijan, to me, is a guaranteed start every week. I think you can probably play some matchups between Kenneth Walker and Alvin Kamara. But I mean, if you're leaning more towards just to set it and forget it, it kind of depends on the scoring as well. Like, if it's PPR, I'm probably going to lean Kamara. If it's, half or standard, Kenneth Walker he's not getting near the target volume, although when he does make catches, he's being very efficient with those touches.
Yeah.
But I mean, and I know you guys touched on this on Wednesday with the, Bill Belichick takes out the best option on the offense, blah, blah, blah. Maybe that's Chris Olave now.
I was going to, and I should have put up more of a fight with Joe. It was way too much of an agreement on the show, but he was like, okay with it being Kamara. And I'm like, is it though? Is it not Chris Olave? So that was my bad. I should have fought with him more. So,
yeah.
Because Kamara did the damn thing. No ifs, ands, or buts. But you also can't predict a 34-0 blowout.
That's the other side of it, yeah.
And then Mike, congratulations. This is the stuff dreams are made of. 2 QB league. He flipped Stroud for Breece and Justin Fields. This is what we're talking about for what you should be doing with these players. It's always about that second piece you're getting. And so if you look at Stroud versus Fields, coming out of the weeks it wasn't a bad trade. Some people who believe in Fields and didn't believe in Stroud's would have done that straight up. But you got Breece Hall back in that deal, and this is how you do trades. Congratulations, Mike. That's amazing. So let's get T-Money up here real quick. Amon-Ra and Calvin Ridley for A.J. Brown. I'm not making this trade. I'm not moving the Sun God, and I'm certainly not throwing in another piece. I know A.J. Brown has had his big weeks, Josh, but you're the Eagles fan, and you've been the one who's saying you can't depend on elite performances every single week.
Yeah, I mean, judging by the other wide receivers that he pops up, I mean, he has Jamar Chase, Cooper Kupp, Chris Olave. I mean, at that point, like, Ridley's a luxury.
Yeah.
And I feel like there really is not much difference at all between Amon-Ra and A.J. Brown. The only thing I would preface slightly leaning Amon-Ra is that he has less weapons to compete with. And both offenses are flying right now. So
yeah,
I think I would prefer the guy long-term that has less competition, but I'm not naive to the fact that A.J. Brown's upside is way higher.
Assuming this is redraft, maybe it's Ridley and Olave you need to be making your trade for, because
that's what I would offer first. I would offer Ridley and Olave if you're set on, or maybe your trade partner is the one that's going for Amon-Ra versus Olave. Try to get at least a running back, like get A.J. Brown plus a running back for Amon-Ra and Ridley and help balance out your team. Don't just give away Calvin Ridley.
Yeah, completely agree. Josh, we are so over on time, but we're going to keep rolling through this. Sunday, Bloody Mary Sunday. Drink all the alcohol you want. This highly drafted player is going to let you down. I'm going to go real quick. Najee Harris, after 2 efficient weeks, he's back down below 4 yards per carry, right where he belongs in life. 2.6 yards per carry last week. But more importantly, we've been saying for seasons, the Steelers only use one running back. That ain't the case anymore. 65% of the carries, 25% of the RB targets. Josh, you had a note in a previous segment that all Najee Harris is doing right now is taking good touches away from a better player in Jaylen Warren. It's ugly. It's bad. And I touched on Stevenson, but I didn't go into it because I wanted you to talk more about it. So.
Yeah, I mean, I was one of the biggest Rhamondre Stevenson truthers heading into this season. I mean, all around back, he does it all. Was third last year in targets among running backs. He's efficient on the ground because he's a fucking bowling ball. Like he eats up yards. But this and we go back to, the whole Dalvin Cook signing in New York with the Jets and how these teams just want to get these high price guys involved. That's never been a Bill Belichick MO. So I just don't understand why they're trying to target, Zeke Elliott and Ty Montgomery even more than Rhamondre Stevenson. Give this guy the football in space. Bill O'Brien knows how valuable a running back who can do it all is. He literally traded one of the best wide receivers in the NFL to get a running back of that nature in David Johnson. And that's where so much of my love for Rhamondre Stevenson came from. Yes, it was all there last year, but bringing in Bill O'Brien, they don't have a ton of pass catchers. So why not get the one guy that we have seen in this offense be really fucking good? Get him the ball. He's RB27. That's not even an RB2 right now.
He's making Rhamondre look like late stage David Johnson instead of early stage.
God
David
almighty.
Johnson.
This is so bad right now. It just pains me because you drafted Rhamondre and you kind of have to start him. That's what sucks.
Yeah.
And he's not helping your lineups right now at all. And
I mentioned him this week.
Trying to move him, you basically have to give up a better player and say, I need you to take this player off of my team to then give me somebody of lesser value.
Yeah.
And nobody wants to make those trades.
And then you're a dumbass. And then you're a dumbass like me who's like, you know what? I have 2 elite running backs, Christian McCaffrey and Rhamondre Stevenson. I don't need a bench. I'm just going to get both their handcuffs. So now I'm start with an out Elijah Mitchell and a mid Ezekiel Elliott who's still outperforming Rhamondre Stevenson. My team is in trouble, plain and simple. Next segment is cream and sugar. This is our buy low, sell high. Cream rises to the top, sugar falls to the bottom. He's not backstage right now, so I want to throw out Mark. If you're ready, you can try to jump in. We're ready to get you into the show because we're getting close to your time here to shine. But Josh, cream and sugar, let's talk about it.
Yeah, we're going to have some fights, but I'll start with a buy low candidate. And the only reason this is a buy low is strictly because of the name. It's Gabe Davis. He has scored a touchdown in 4 straight weeks. He's a free agent at season's end. Everybody wrote him off because of last year, where he was, again, his exact prototype, so boomer bust. This year, he's been a lot more consistent. And people were fading him because of the boomer bust label, but also because the team went out and drafted Dalton Kincaid in the first round to play sort of that big slot role. This passing offense still goes through Stephon Diggs, but the number 2 target right now is Gabe Davis.
And
he is the guy. And it really is not close. Like the targets, they were a little close heading into this week's matchup, but the production is all Gabe Davis. When you look at the rest of the pass catchers in this offense, James Cook is getting a lot of looks, not a ton of production out of the receiving game. It's all Gabe Davis. He is performing. He's doing everything that you want to do. You could probably get him for pretty cheap right now, simply because people are going to look at that name. And depending on the platform that you're playing at, you're not looking at where he ranks among certain wide receivers. Like, it's all about the manager right now.
We know who Gabe Davis is, and it's like,
exactly.
We don't. And I think this goes back, Josh. We had Marvin Eloquent on the show. I think it was our Dynasty show that I had the privilege of doing with him. And he very poignantly said, have we gone too far on Gabe Davis? And it's like, honestly, that flipped a light bulb for me. And I went out and got him in more leagues, and it's paying dividends right now. And of course, big shout out to Queen Roxanne, who writes our wide receiver versus corners matchup, who called, I think, just about a touchdown for every one of her receivers this week. She read the coverage and knew this was going to be a big Gabe Davis week, and she called it perfectly. So if you're not following that article, it drops every single Saturday, where Roxanne goes in and finds corners that are either going to shut down or give up a lot of fantasy points, and she has been wildly accurate when it comes to those.
No, love it. And then my sell high, my sugar this week. And Ryan, I know we're going to fight a little bit. It's Jaylen Waddle. I mean, look, the way that this offense is looking right now, you can make the argument he is the 4th option. The Miami Dolphins are the number 1 passing offense in the NFL, and Jaylen Waddle is like wide receiver 40-something. What is he? Wide
47.
receiver? I just wrote it down. 41.
Oh, okay.
47 on the season. Okay, 41, 47, whatever it is. They have the number 1 rushing offense in the NFL. Devon Achane and Raheem Mostert are like RBs 2 and 3 right now in fantasy, or 3 and 4, or 4 and 5, or something along those lines. Like, they're up there. So I don't know how you can sit here and feel confident in weekly trotting out Jaylen Waddle as a result of that. I'm not saying that he's not going to finish as a wide receiver 2. He probably will, but you didn't draft him to be a wide receiver 2. You drafted him to be an upside wide receiver 1. And I understand the handcuff aspect of it, because yes, if Tyreek Hill ever goes down, then yeah, it's Jaylen Waddle to the fucking moon. I get that. It's the same concept with T. Higgins. But do you feel confident starting T. Higgins right now if he's healthy? Ryan, honestly?
No.
Okay. So how's that really any different right now than Jaylen Waddle?
Because of what we saw from him last year. And first
10
of all,
targets yesterday. 10 targets. He had 5 fucking catches for 35 yards. He had his first touchdown of the season. He has been wide receiver 31, 44, missed with injury, 47, and 19 last week. Those have been his finishes. He's wide receiver 41 on the season, 11.8 fantasy points per game. It's just not great.
The T. Higgins comp, he has, I think, 12 more points than T. Higgins in the same amount of games and on fewer targets. So,
but he's also been in a better offense than T. Higgins. Joe Burrow is taking.
But you asked if I'm willing to start.
Healthy.
Yeah, that's fine. But you're asking if I'm willing to start T. Higgins. I'm not. I am willing to start Waddle. I do want to throw out that Josh subtly just 8-miled me because we have in our notes what we're going to say. So for you to throw out that, yes, if Tyreek Hill gets hurt, you bastard, because that's my best argument. But I do want to throw out.
Oh, I got even more argument. Let's go. I made a whole bunch of notes off this show sheet so I can put you in your place.
Son of a bitch. I do want to throw out 1.8 points, fantasy points per target. That puts him on equal footing with both of Philadelphia's wide receivers, but better than Puka Nacua, better than Jamar Chase, better than Devontae Adams, though that could change tonight. He still does it, but Josh is right. You need more volume, and that's what I would hope to see out of him. People do seem to be forgetting he was dealing with a preseason chest injury that was going to affect him leading up to week 1. I don't think he is 100%. But Josh, my biggest counterpoint to all of this is, why would you sell any piece of this offense? I'm the asshole who was telling people to sell Raheem Mostert. I'm not selling any piece of this offense. This is greatest show on turf offense right now. I'm not moving any piece of it. I know you're going to go in on Waddle again here, but you're not going to convince me. I'm going to say the same thing about Waddle I said about Gibbs. Adjust your expectations. The draft was a month ago, 2 months ago. You fucked that up already. Don't fuck it up now and look at Jaylen Waddle as a wide receiver 1. Look at Jahmyr Gibbs as an RB1. If you look at Waddle as a wide receiver 2 with obscene upside, it's not what you paid for, but it's what you got, and I'm not mad about that, Josh.
In your experiences in home league drafts with people that aren't fanalists that do, the podcast, the written articles, all that stuff, how long do they hold on to their priors from where they drafted somebody?
Forever.
Okay. So if you're telling me that you could move Jaylen Waddle for Mike Evans and maybe a depth running back, would you do it?
No.
Really?
I would.
Because Mike Evans right now, to your argument of fantasy points per target, Jaylen Waddle 1.8, Mike Evans averages 2.3 fantasy points per target. He has
I'm still not ready.
7 yards and 3 touchdowns.
I can't trust Baker Mayfield, Josh. Don't make me.
Okay. Would you get Adam Thielen? Plus?
I'll say that you were closer with me on Mike Evans. I love what Adam Thielen's doing. No, I would not. So
okay. 2.1 fantasy points per target. I got a guy right here, 246 yards and 1 touchdown. 1 yard more than Jaylen Waddle. 3.3 fantasy points per target. How about 1.7 fantasy points per target, but 279 yards and 2 touchdowns?
No.
Okay. I wouldn't either. It's Tutu Atwell.
Okay.
291 yards, 3 touchdowns, 2.6 fantasy points per target.
Oh, maybe.
That's Josh Reynolds. 224 yards, 3 touchdowns, 1.8 fantasy points per target.
Again, if you give me a blind resume, they're going to probably beat Waddle, but it's the offense. I'm not buying out of the Miami offense, and that's why I can't be convinced.
That was Romeo Doubs, by the way.
I do like
and he still has to play tonight, and that number is going to go up probably. 255 yards, 2 touchdowns, 2.9 fantasy points per target.
I'm just going to say no to everything because you're just tricking me.
That's Michael Wilson. That's kind of my point. Like, there's plenty of people that are outperforming Jaylen Waddle right now. I understand this is a better offense. It will eventually get going, sure. But right now, if you can improve your team, and that is the goal, it's a week-to-week game, even if you are playing season long. If he's not helping you win right now, go get pieces that can, and then make a trade later if you need to go back and get Jaylen Waddle. That's fine.
It's fair, but I guess my thing is I just feel like if you sell Jaylen Waddle now, unless you have a league that's holding on to insane priors from last year, I don't think the value is there, and that's why I'm not making this deal. I'm also throwing out that I think Derrick Henry's a buy. His down season has been 2 bad weeks so far, and he showed what he did against Cincinnati is some shit that other people in the league can't do. But again, we've already talked a little bit about this. You have to understand what you're buying. You're not buying a top 5 running back. You're not buying King Henry. You are buying a top 10 running back on most weeks, but probably someone who's falling 10 to 20. I'm going to go ahead and bring Mark in real quick. Mark, hopefully your mic is working. How are you doing today, buddy?
So far, so good. How are you guys?
Everything's going well. If you guys are not familiar with Mark, he is at Drunken Dynasty on Twitter. Mark covers deep waivers for us here on the show. But Mark, I'm actually going to let you start our chill the fuck out section because I have a question for you. You have a league mate who's ready to come on the show and call you out, call you a fraud about Cole Kmet. And my question to you is Cole Kmet real, or do people need to chill the fuck out, Mark?
Chill the fuck out. He I don't know what it is exactly. It's hard to put into words. I don't have faith in him. It's maybe my Bears pessimism. I'm so used to the Bears being bad, I just accept everybody's bad. That might be, I could be a fraud. I admit it, but.
It's hard, though, because as a fandom, you're supposed to like every player on your team, and when they do well, it's supposed to be easier to like them, but Josh, you might have hit the new theme of the show. We stick to our priors, and man, do we want to hate Cole Kmet.
No, I mean, he's touchdown dependent. That's what he is. I mean, that's basic. Like 2 touchdowns last week in week 4, 1 touchdown this week in week 5. We saw the touchdown spikes last year with Cole Kmet. It was like 4 straight games, and then he just fell off the map again.
Yeah.
Like,
Aren't
this
all
offense right now is driven through Fields and DJ Moore. I mean, yeah, you can put Cole Kmet as the second passing option in this offense, but they're still not a 550 pass attempt offense.
Yeah.
So he literally is touchdown dependent. He's great for standard leagues. No problem there. Do you truly want him in PPR scoring consistently?
I was going to say,
don't.
Even where he is right now in targets at 29 knocks him all the way down to 8th in targets in a position that's already not very heavily targeted. So I just wanted to Mark threw that into the chat a while ago. I wanted to make sure we bring that in. In fact, I'm going to, before we get it, let's knock out some of these questions before we get into chill the fuck out, Josh, because I feel like we need to help Johnny chill the fuck out. Yes. Johnny, welcome to the show.
Calm
it's
down,
all right,
brother.
buddy. It happens that way sometimes, man. I am sitting in a home league with Patrick Mahomes, Christian McCaffrey, Travis Kelce. You would make me think my team is unbeatable. I am going now on a 3-game losing streak, and everything is just going terribly, terribly wrong. I just lost to a team that I had universally called the worst team in the league last week. I was making jokes about this week being my bye week. It wasn't my bye week.
I have my work league where I'm going to be 1-4. I have not started in 1 week. Actually, I did in week 1. That was the week that I won. The exact team that I drafted because of injuries. I've lost Austin Eckler. I've lost Amon-Ra St. Brown. I've lost Aaron Jones. I've lost Anthony Richardson. I've lost Deontay Johnson. All at different parts of this season. I'm 1-4 in my freaking work league, and I'm on a freaking podcast every couple of days.
Yeah. And man, do they love throwing that at you. Like,
but this is what 100% they do. But this is what I will say, Johnny. We have a show. It's called DFS Academy. It's a week-to-week show.
And it's safe.
If you're having trouble with the concept of the season-long aspect, let's get you playing on a week-to-week basis, and let's have some fun and make a little bit of money at it. So make sure you follow Ryan. Follow Kelly and Sing at Kelly and Phoenix. Follow Austin and Mandolia at Austin_FFL. Those are the hosts of our DFS show, and it premieres every Friday at 9 a.m. Eastern. So we can teach you a little bit about DFS if you're unfamiliar with it, and maybe we can kind of ease some of the stresses of the season-long aspect of fantasy.
And I will say,
0-5, I get it. It's depressing.
And I will say, I have routinely called myself a terrible DFS player because of listening to these guys. I have cashed in 4 of 5 weeks this season. Playing the cash game with these guys. So definitely check it out. And guys, before we get into the final segment, we talked about that Ridley trade earlier. Would you do Ridley straight up for Alvin Kamara in a redraft league, Mark?
Ridley for Kamara, absolutely.
And the guy is stacked at wide receiver. You weren't in the show for that. He is stacked at wide receiver. This was Josh. Josh, you kind of alluded to it, so I'll go to you next.
Yeah,
don't just give Calvin Ridley away. So
yeah, I mean that's kind of what you want to get back, right? Like the numbers.
What I was going to say is you don't need a wide receiver.
Yeah, you don't need a wide receiver back. Like trading Ridley for Kamara, that's great. If you wanted to do like if Kamara is on that team with AJ Brown and you did, Amon-Ra and Ridley for AJ Brown and Kamara, I'm fine with that. 100%.
Absolutely, yeah.
Like that's what improves your team,
Or if you could just straight up trade Ridley for Kamara, I'm good with that too.
So. Yeah, and he says his running backs are Josh Jacobs and Kieran Williams. Like, yeah, grab another depth piece, 100%, because one injury, you are screwed, buddy.
And let's talk about Kieran Williams, Josh, because I was so happy to read the show sheet this week in the Chill the Fuck Out segment. Go for it, buddy.
Yeah, well, not the best game, but look, the Eagles have the best run defense in the NFL. This is a guy that, he's been utilized a lot in the passing game, and that's definitely helped. But a lot of his fantasy inflation has come from touchdowns, and that's been a lot of my issue. But look, his next 4 games: home to Arizona, home to Pittsburgh, at Dallas, at Green Bay. I mean, he's going to be a top 10 running back in at least 3 of those games.
Yep.
Just Kmet. Like, people are, maybe if they're privy to this info, they're going to try to make some moves to try to get him. I have tried selling him in a lot of my leagues, mostly in dynasty leagues. I have one redraft league where I was trying to trade him after like week 3, and the guy offered me basically 2 backup running backs at the time. One of those running backs was Achane. Should have accepted it, but I didn't. And, understandably, because Achane hadn't gone off yet. He was just I'm not going to trade a top 5 running back at this point in the season for 2 backups. Like, that's dumb. So kind of kicking myself on that one now, but hindsight's always 2020. But yeah, I mean, like I said, those are matchups that can be easily exploited. Schedule after that doesn't get great. So maybe after the Arizona game and he pops back up, that's when you look to move them for, maybe you can get a Pacheco plus, you can get a Brian Robinson plus. Like, those are backs that I would trust more because I think they're less situationally dependent. Whereas with Kieran Williams, as shown by this game, he is very situationally dependent because of the fact that so much of his production is strictly on touchdowns.
Yeah. A lot of Tutu Atwell defenders out there. Mine is chill the fuck out on Tutu Atwell. It was great that he scored a touchdown. People were throwing it in my face that he scored a touchdown. He ended the game with 5 targets. He only had 3 targets and 2 catches going into the fourth quarter, and 2 catches for 9 yards was his final stat line. It was just a touchdown that saved his day. This is Cooper Kupp and Puka Nakua's show now. It is not still Tutu Atwell. Let's be very, very clear about that. And shout out to Matt, who says he finally has Tyreek and Kupp in his lineup. It's a dream come true. My little brother was holding Jonathan Taylor and Cooper Kupp, and obviously Taylor didn't pay dividends immediately, but to get both of those guys back and Cooper Kupp to go off. And Jonathan Santiago, I see your question. We're going to talk about the Monday night game to end the show, so just give us a second on that, and we will get you on there. And Mark, it is finally time for your segment. Welcome to the show. Introduce yourself and talk about those deep waiver pickups for those folks out there who are in some very deep fantasy football leagues.
I'm Mark. I am Drunken Dynasty on Twitter, X, whatever they seem to be calling it these days. Mostly a dynasty guy, but with these week waiver things, they end up being very redraft oriented because you're trying to pick. There's nobody on waivers in most dynasty leagues, to be fair. My first player this week is going to be Gardner Minshew. It's looking like it's going to be a month for Richardson with the AC joint. He's not exciting, really, but he certainly got his fan base and gets the job done well enough.
Yeah.
Another one with an eye on injury, with Connor out with a twisted knee. At least be aware of that when looking at Amari DeMarcado.
Yeah. I was going to ask if he was on your dynasty radar, but clearly he wasn't.
No, that one.
I had never heard of the guy. So
10 carries for 45 and a touchdown, 1 catch for 12 yards on 3 targets. It's strictly an injury thing. Connor is unexciting at best, so if this guy can bring things around, maybe he gets the job.
Yeah.
Kendra Miller, I was hoping to see more while Kamara was out, but with Kamara coming back, that may have opened up more targets. He did have 4 catches. I did not note the targets. In addition to 37 yards on 12 carries.
Yeah, I was going to say, it wasn't nearly as much as he had, or as Alvin Kamara had, but still, not a bad game.
Old guy corner this week is Logan Thomas, 92% available in ESPN leagues. 9 catches, 77 and a touchdown on 11 targets. Back from concussion, resembled Kelce East against Chicago. A sign of how bad tight end is. He is currently tight end 11 on the year despite missing time with a concussion.
Yep. I love seeing Logan Thomas on there because, man, is it proving my priors where I thought they would be using the tight end quite a bit, and I love.
They've been using Curtis Samuel a lot more too.
They really have. I mean, honestly, if it wasn't for Sam Howell, this would be a well-oiled machine in offense. Finally, he got his shit together this past week, but nothing that looked all that great.
That was another guy that I had on my comparisons for Jaylen Waddle. 243 yards, 2 receiving yards, 2 total touchdowns, 2.3 fantasy points per target. Curtis Samuel right now is outperforming Jaylen Waddle.
Oof.
Wow.
Jesus. Well, you know what, Josh? Let's just lean into that because apparently this is the Jaylen Waddle suck show. Jackson, welcome to the show. Would you trade away Waddle and Pierce to get Achane and Flowers as fast as fucking possible? I'm making this trade. and I'm the one defending Waddle. I'm making that trade. Guys, before we get out of here for the day, let's talk a little bit about the Monday night game. And we're actually going to start off with Jonathan Santiago needing a Monday miracle. Had Goddard on his bench. Now he's down 30. Do we think Christian Watson can save him in full PPR against a very, very leaky Raiders defense? Josh.
Crap. I was typing timestamps. What's the 30?
Can Christian? Yeah, I don't know why I got it off the screen. Do we think Christian Watson
definitely he can?
Yeah.
I mean, those are the reasons why you put Christian Watson in your lineup is because of that big playability. And let's be honest, the Las Vegas Raiders fucking suck. So you can throw on this team. There's definitely going to be a lot of back and forth because, I mean, this is the Devontae Adams revenge game, right? Like, exactly. Adams is going to want to go off. And really what they did was they essentially traded Adams for Watson, right? Like, that's the guy that they replaced him with. So I think there's definitely going to be a level of one-upsmanship, and Watson has that ability. I don't know that he hits 30, but he can.
Yeah. Mark, what do you think here?
If there's a player on the Packers that can put up 30 outside of the running back position, Watson's your guy.
My only concern is the Raiders are only giving up 36 PPR points to wide receivers, and I like Romeo Doubs this week as well. However, Watson did have a 30-point week last year against Dallas, so I'm going to say it's possible. Unlikely, but very possible. The Monday night game, in case you haven't gathered, is the Packers at the Raiders. The Raiders are 2-point favorites at home. The over-under on this game is 44.5. Mark, you are a Vegas resident. What do you see happening in this game?
I am. Last night on the Strip, it looked more like it was Green Bay West.
Ooh. so the
Packers fans travel.
Yep.
They definitely traveled last night. I, being a Bears fan, can't stand the Packers, but I can't in good conscience recommend the Raiders either. So Raiders in the over.
Raiders in the over, Josh.
I will say we had a question on Facebook last night. Somebody was asking, would they start Dak Prescott or Jimmy Garoppolo? And I thought, honestly, it was pretty easy, even despite the tough matchup, that it was Dak Prescott. After 3 interceptions, I feel really bad. But you know what? Jimmy Garoppolo could very easily throw 4 picks in this game. He's just not
Jimmy Garoppolo could re-injure himself in the pregame and not play tonight. So.
There's also that. So, yeah, I mean, this should be a game the Packers win pretty handedly, in all honesty. But, you know, and Adams is banged up. Jimmy G seems to connect pretty well, not just with Adams, but also with Jacoby Myers when he's not trying to, like, you know, lead him into getting their heads taken off. But, yeah, I think the Packers pull this one out. Hopefully Aaron Jones plays. That's my big thing. If Aaron Jones doesn't play, I think Josh Jacobs is going to have a hell of a game today.
I was going to say, I don't know if I want to pick a winner in this game, but I am taking the over. I learned my lesson on the Bears-Washington game is even if it's 2 bad teams, if neither one of them has defense, there's a lot of points that are going to be scored. But I would love to see a Josh Jacobs parlay for a touchdown to go with your over and a Christian Watson parlay for a touchdown. I think there are points to be scored here. I'd love to see Luke Musgrave back from that concussion tonight. Guys, let's end with a fan question before we get out of here for the day. Would we trade Jahmyr Gibbs for Calvin Ridley straight up? Josh is shaking his head. He wants Ridley. Mark?
Give me Gibbs, but then again, that's my dynasty brain kicking in.
Josh shaking his head at Mark, and he's going to keep shaking that head because you know I'm going running back. Give me Jahmyr Gibbs as well.
This offense has literally shown you that if there is a quality tight end that can catch passes, they're not going to throw to the fucking running back. I don't know why y'all are so invested in Jahmyr Gibbs for 2023.
I'm invested in the rookie running back versus a 30-year-old wide receiver.
But again, 29. That's your dynasty brain.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's for me.
For 2023, give me Calvin Ridley.
I guess I would need to know the rest of your roster, but we're getting out of here, Odie, so we're not going to see it. But I'll take Gibbs here. Folks, thank you so much for tuning into the show. If you're on YouTube, please hit the subscribe button. It costs you nothing, but it means the world to us. We're trying to get our way to monetization. Josh, I'll let you. You always do so well with this. But I actually know what I'll do with Josh. We have live shows every single day of the week for the most part. We have DFS shows. We have start-sit shows with the cutest co-host on the face of the planet. We do multiple of those now. We have a start-sit show every Saturday where we just spend an hour only answering your questions. As Josh mentioned earlier in the show, DFS show goes live on Friday. And then we have articles to go with every single one of these things at clubfantasyffl.com. We have my waiver article tomorrow. We have a DFS matchup report. We literally transcribe our DFS show and put that out for you guys on Saturdays, plus great matchup reports versus wide receivers versus corners. I'm forgetting a ton of stuff, but the long and short of it is check out the website at clubfantasyffl.com. Please follow Club Fantasy on all the socials at clubfantasyffl. Josh, go ahead and let people know where they can find you.
You can find me at the one Hudsonian. I finally got my Twitter account
Josh had some
reactivated
Twitter fun
because
this
Jesus
week.
Christ, I don't know why anybody wants to fucking hack my Twitter account, but whatever.
Yeah.
And then of course, the all the important stuff is at Club Fantasy FFL. The URL is clubfantasyffl.com.
Mark, tell everybody bye and where they can find you.
Drunken Dynasty on Twitter. That's about it these days.
There you go. You can find me at the Fantasy 5, F-I-V-E, 5 is spelled out. But more importantly, you can find Club Fantasy at Club Fantasy FFL on every social media site. Ton of stuff going out every single day. And again, please just go ahead and subscribe. It'll really actually help us out. We'll be back next week to tell you guys when to panic and when to chill the fuck out. Have a great